I've been using the iPhone 16 Pro Max now for a bit over a month, and I think that it's time we finally review it. Let's get into it. So just for a bit of context, I've been coming from the iPhone 14 Pro Max, and everything that I sort of compare with this phone is going to be related to that, because I think a lot of people now aren't upgrading every year. It's stupid to compare this phone to the previous year's model because there isn't going to be much of a difference. So firstly, let's get into the positives of this phone. I absolutely love the fact that the bezels are pushed right to the edge of the screen. I think that it makes an absolutely massive difference. I noticed it for my 14 Pro Max, and you can even notice it on the regular 14 compared to the 16. It is just a massive difference. Like, with all of these years' phones, the bezels have just been pushed so close to the edge that you can't even tell where the screen begins. That's how good it is. With the screen being bigger, it does actually make a lot of difference. You know, the iPhone 14 Pro Max was 6.7 inches. This is 6.9. And trust me, you notice that. Coming from the 14 Pro Max, I came from a stainless steel, heavy phone that felt like a brick anytime it was in your pocket. This being made out of titanium, yes, it got introduced with the 15 Pro Max, but the 16 Pro Max being bigger, it makes a massive difference. Like, when I pick up the phone, I don't feel like I'm having to bicep curl the thing. I feel like I'm actually holding a phone, which does make a massive difference. This phone has USB-C, which is honestly so nice. Like, coming from the 14 Pro Max and, you know, having lightning, I was running Android phones for a year before that, and I was using them with USB-C. You get used to having USB-C, charging your laptop with USB-C, charging your phone with USB-C, having it all integrate nicely. Everything uses USB-C now, so having a phone that had lightning was an absolute pain. Now having USB-C has made my life so much easier. I can hook it up to a screen if I want to with a converter. I can charge faster. I can use my longer USB-C leads. It's honestly so much nicer. I don't know why Apple didn't put this on their phone sooner, but I'm really happy that they have put USB-C on it because it's made my life a lot easier. Action button. I honestly have seen a lot of people online saying they do not use the action button and it's just pointless. For me, that is the complete opposite. I programmed this thing to turn on and off my lights, and it's a game changer. It makes it so much easier. Instead of having to use my voice assistant, I can just press the button and my lights turn on, my lights turn off. It's the most simple command, but it just works every time, guaranteed. I don't have any issues. The only complaint I have with it is that I can't just activate it in my pocket. It has to scan my face, it has to be unlocked, and then it brings up a prompt on the top of the screen. That's the only downside to it, but other than that, I think it's honestly a really good addition because my ringer switch was always on mute. I literally never used the ringer switch, so it was just a pointless button that never got used. So with the 16 Pro Max, we got this new sort of studio effect added to the camera, which I'm using right this second. You will notice with the microphone, I sound a lot more like I'm in a studio. Compared to the videos with my 14 Pro Max, you notice that with the 16 Pro Max, my voice is a lot clearer, you know? It sounds like I'm using a proper microphone, which I'm not. My whole setup is my 16 Pro Max, which is recording right now, and the microphone's out of that 16 Pro Max. It's honestly quite scary how good this is. Like, I filmed a couple videos with this, with a test video for the Sky Glass TV behind me, and it's insane. Like, you can change the different modes. You can change if you want it to be a studio effect, if you want to have the people behind you being heard, if you want it to just be your voice that's isolated. Before, we were never able to do this, and for people that do video on their iPhone and take things seriously, massive game changer. And I think that a lot of people are going to use this, especially that are in sort of the media creation space, because there's been a lot of times, and you'll probably see it with a lot of, you know, videos that you might take yourself, that you'll take a video and you're capturing the moment, but then you have someone screaming in the background, and you have a truck that's, you know, decided to reverse and it's got a constant beeping in the background. This eliminates that. Honestly, a really good feature that I think you should all try if you do have a 16 Pro or Pro Max, because it's a feature that you'll notice. So that brings me onto the camera on this phone. This camera has been really good. Now, yes, it does look very similar to my 14 Pro Max. The video looks very similar, you know, the photos all look similar. They have the iPhone look. But I think pictures every time consistently have just got better and better. Things look fantastic, videos look fantastic, the audio is fantastic. And I'll show a couple pictures now of the pictures I've taken on this phone. They look incredible, they do. You know, with the iPhones, every time I take my phone out of my pocket, I know it's going to take a fantastic photo. And even better, when I want to take a video, I know that this thing is the king of video. Compared to my Android phone, it just doesn't compare. You know, I think that Apple have really nailed video. They've really made it look fantastic. They've made the audio fantastic now. They've got everything. And if you want a phone that can take fantastic video, takes consistently good photos, iPhone is the one. It's a really big thing. If you're considering going from Android over to iPhone and you take a lot of video, this by far will just trump it. The ultra-wide camera. So the ultra-wide camera when taking photos looks really good. And then you've got your telephoto camera, which is, always good. That's the one that you open up your camera to and you just take a quick shot and it will always look fantastic. Then you've got your 5x zoom. Coming from the 14 Pro Max, where the zoom was all right, this zoom is incredible. Now, yes, I don't really zoom in often, and I've had an S22 Ultra, and that thing is ridiculous. But with this, I think, if you just do occasional zooming in, you're far away, it looks really good. A lot of people don't zoom in a lot, but when they do want to zoom in, this phone will be absolutely fine. Coming from anything from a 13 series and above, they're all going to have a very similar look, but you will notice that, the camera's got slight improvements. But yeah, the camera on this phone is A-class. Can we please talk about battery life? I'm honestly shocked because every iPhone I've had has been shocking at battery life. I have always missed the major battery life champion. But with this, it is actually insane how much battery I get. I've capped it at 95% so that every morning I wake up, I've got 95% on my phone, just to, save my battery that a little bit more, because I think 95% it's a good enough amount to get you through that the day. But this, I'm honestly not even joking you. I can watch video on my phone for hours. I can be using my phone non-stop for hours, playing music, connecting to Bluetooth devices, using video. It just doesn't sweat. It just honestly keeps going. It gets me through the whole day. There has only been 1 or 2 days where I've been paranoid about battery life. But even when I hit that 20% mark, I still don't feel paranoid. And even when I hit the 10% mark, I still don't feel paranoid because I know the phone is still going to get me through. It feels like every percent lasts at least 15, 20 minutes. It's honestly a really, really good phone for battery life. And if you're looking for an iPhone that's got strong battery life, the 16 Pro Max at the moment is honestly incredible. And with all the optimizations they've been making over, the little tweaks with the new software upgrades, it's got even better. This now does bring me on to the negatives because, as much as the positives are fantastic, a lot of them were on the 15 Pro Max series. Number one, being the camera control button. You might have noticed that on my positives, it was not on there. It's on my negatives, and that has just got to be, I feel like it's just a pointless addition. If anything, it's made it more difficult. It's frustrating. I clicked that button so many times by accident that it's honestly frustrating. And the times I have used it, the phone's crashed. It's had to respring. I've actually tried to use this thing seriously, and I say at least there's a 1 in 4 chance that when I click this button, my phone is going to respring. It's so frustrating. What is causing this thing to crash? And not even to mention, when I put this phone in its tripod, I have to make sure I don't hit the power button, but I also don't hit the camera action button so that it doesn't think that I'm trying to activate it. It's frustrating, and it's in the most annoying position because it's not in, the best position to be able to have landscape, but it's also not in the best position to be able to have portrait. You have to hold the phone in a bit of an uncomfortable situation where if you go a bit too much high, you're going to drop your phone. So it's really frustrating. I don't understand why they've added this, because it just feels like one of those things that is being added just to sort of market, because I can't see someone actually genuinely using this, because it's honestly quicker to just use the buttons on the screen than use the camera control button to zoom in and out. Now, I do find myself using this thing as a fidget toy. That is literally all it is, because you can disable this button if you want to, and you can just have it as a clicker. Like, that is literally all you can have it as. And Apple said that apps are going to be optimizing itself for this camera action button. The only app that has, optimized itself for this camera action button so far is Instagram. But even that, I can't figure out how the hell to use it. You have to set it up so that when you click the camera action control button, it opens straight into Instagram. I don't want to do that. I just want to be able to use the camera action control button in social media. If I really want to use it, let me use it in any social media. Snapchat hasn't added optimization. Instagram hasn't added proper optimization. WhatsApp hasn't added it. TikTok hasn't added it. pointless, absolutely pointless. And the AI in this phone has not even come out yet. It's the biggest marketing feature with this phone, and it's not been added. Why, Apple? This is the first time where Apple have really promised something on their new phones that have been coming out, and it hasn't been there. Now, yes, there is sort of, this track record with Apple products that, yes, everything that they promise does come out, but you've marketed this thing with all of these AI features, and day one when I open this phone, it doesn't have it. And it still doesn't have it, and it's not going to have it till December in the UK. And people in America are only just getting this. What is that all about? I understand, that AI has been a massive thing, and it's been, something that's come very quickly, and not a lot of people expected it. But come on, Apple. You have enough engineers to the point where you could have got this out by September. I'm sorry. And the fact that this is only on the 15 Pro series, not even the regular 15 series, and the 16 series, is ridiculous. You've advertised this feature, with this phone, and it's not even out yet, and it's so frustrating because there's so many cool features on there that I want to be able to use, and part of me wanted to hold off the review on this phone until the proper AI features came out. But when it came out that this thing isn't going to be coming out to December, I have to review the phone as it is, and so far I haven't had what I've been promised. And that brings me on to sort of the first initial couple of weeks with this phone. It took Apple a really, really long time to iron out a lot of these bugs, and it's really, really strange. I mean, with Apple before, I don't know whether it's just because I've been on, never had a pre-ordered phone, but it felt like a lot of these bugs got ironed out a lot quicker, and a lot of people, were happy with the phones they got. This year, it just feels like every phone they release has more and more bugs every time it comes out. Now, that does beg the question, should people wait a couple of months for these bugs to be ironed out? And honestly, with some of the bugs I was getting on this phone, yes. So initially, when this phone first came out, it had a really, really strange bug. Now, Apple are quite good when it comes to having mistouch prevention. So if you have your palm on the edge of the screen, it normally just doesn't respond, or if there's a finger on the screen that's not meant to, that's not doing anything, and you're using your other hand, it will just ignore it completely. But with this iPhone series, when it first came out, it didn't do that. It would bug and glitch out the whole home screen or whatever app you were on, sometimes even scroll for you, and it wouldn't fully mistouch. So it would sometimes register that your palm was there, but obviously not do anything about it. But then sometimes it registered that it was there, and the phone would just freeze, and then it would sort of react to some of the movements you were doing. And coming from a 14 Pro Max where this issue was not on there at all, it was really jarring and really strange, because I've never seen that before with an iPhone, where the mistouch, sort of feature has been so bad, and it was really bad initially. Another bug was that every time you turn on the phone, there would just be no apps. So you'd unlock the phone and you'd only have your dock, or if the app's loaded, you just have sort of these little square icons that had like little lines in them. It was really weird, and iOS 18 was so buggy towards the beginning, especially on this phone, that it was just really, really strange. I'm so glad these bugs got ironed out, but it took Apple a really, really long time to actually do it, and it really did shock me how long it actually took them to do it. Now, that does bring me to sort of the elephant in the room. This design has been used since the iPhone 11. Like, the 11 Pro started this sort of stovetop camera design and, the sort of look we've got at the moment. And then with the 12 Pros and the 12, it introduced the square design. So the 11 and 12 really introduced sort of what we've got today, and nothing's changed. Now, I'm not saying this is a bad thing, and I really don't mind it, but a lot of people don't like it, and they see it as, innovation being stopped and Apple running out of ideas, and it's really made it difficult for a lot of people to justify upgrading. And a lot of people have decided to move over to Android to try and get something different. And I think that Apple are really going to see this. 16 Pro sales have been a lot lower than Apple anticipated. And I think that's for a lot of reasons. I think the design, where it looks so similar, as weird as it sounds, people want to have a newish design to show off to people. With the 13 series and the 14 series having the, slightly different camera, it showed that you didn't have a 12. And then with the iPhone 16 series having, what the sort of iPhone 12 and 11 had, it's made people confused. And people want to have a design where it looks completely different. Now, I'm not saying that this is Apple alone, and it definitely isn't. A lot of Android companies are looking the same. My Google Pixel 7 here looks very similar to the Pixel 9. And it's one of those things where companies are doing it because it makes it cheaper. They want to have their design, their look. They don't want to have to be changing every year. If we look at the previous generations of iPhones, starting off with the iPhone 2G all the way up until the 16 series here, I will show you. Look at the difference between all of those phones, between the 2G up to the 11. They all look different, give or take. We had an S year, and then we had a design change. S year, design change. And people liked that because it meant they could plan on when they upgraded. If you didn't mind having, the similar looking phone with better specs, you'd get the S series. If you wanted to have something that, was completely different in looks, you'd get the newer series. For example, the iPhone 6 to the 7, they look different and people could tell the difference. And especially with the iPhone 4 to the iPhone 5S, people noticed the difference. And it made people want to upgrade more. As stupid as it sounds, it was the truth. And I think Apple are really going to see this. And, there is rumors that they're going to be introducing an iPhone 17 Slim. And I think that's to try and combat some of those, design differences. To make something that looks different that people are going to be able to hold and be like, look, I've got a new iPhone. This is the new one. And a lot of people have been arguing that the iPhone 13 Pro Max is the king. And I honestly have to agree. This phone, when it came out, was an absolute monster. It was the first phone to get promotion. It was the first phone to get a shrunken notch. It was also the first phone to have an absolutely killer battery life on an iPhone. Like, that thing was incredible. We got that beautiful blue color. The camera's improved massively over the 12 series. And you got a really nice design. At this point, people weren't fatigued with this design. It was, something that was still relatively new, especially with the square design. And they thought, oh, okay, Apple are, polishing up the 12 series. And that's really what they did. They made what was really good about the 12 series and what people loved about it better with the 13 series. And overall, from the 13 to the 13 Pro, there was a whole universal design change in terms of the 13. And in terms of the 13 Pro, all of the specs inside got improved and it was fantastic. And this phone is still something that people are holding on to. It was me and I had the 13 Pro series at the time. I honestly don't know if I would have upgraded because that phone, people are struggling to switch from. And that says a lot. Before, people would switch every 2 years minimum. Now people are keeping their phone for up to 4 to 5 years. It's insane. It's insane. And that sort of brings me on to, if you want to upgrade to this phone, should you? Now, for me, I upgraded because I like tech. I want to have the newest. I want to try out new phones. I love trying out new phones. I'm happy to say I enjoy doing it on here, and I enjoy getting to try new phones. But if you're just someone that, buys their phone, they get it on contract, they've been offered to upgrade, and you're tossing up whether or not you should get a SIM only to make it cheaper or you should upgrade to a new phone, I'd honestly say if you've got a 14 or 13 series, and especially if you've got a 15 series, don't upgrade. Unless you have got a real reason, like, your screen's broken or your battery is terrible, I wouldn't upgrade. I don't think there's a big enough reason for people at the moment to upgrade. I'd say if you're anything below a 12, by all means, upgrade to this series. But even then, it begs the question, if you don't care about Apple Intelligence, and it's not even on the 16 series at the moment, should you just get a 15? Or should you get a second-hand phone? It really does open up a lot of questions, because I genuinely think that this phone isn't enough of a reason to upgrade. For a lot of people, they're not going to find it worth it, especially if they're coming from a 13 Pro to a 16 Pro. They look the same. Even my 14 to the 16, it looked identical. Like, in terms of looking at it, it didn't look different at all. But that brings me on to my conclusion. I think that, yes, this phone has been an absolutely fantastic upgrade for me. Battery life, bezels being pushed to the edge, the improvements on the camera, and the audio improvements have been fantastic. And USB-C being added to this phone has just made life so much nicer. But all of my positives about this phone, I really could have transferred over to the iPhone 15 series, bar the audio features on the camera. So that begs the question for me is that I don't think you should upgrade. I really don't. And that makes it sad for me, because I've always been an enthusiast of iPhones. I've absolutely loved them. but I don't think you should. I think you should stick with the phone you've got, if you've got a 13 series or above, and I think you should stick with it. If you did enjoy this video, please like and subscribe. It's been Harry. I'm out. Peace.